Hi guys and welcome to Publishing Week 10. We go straight to the 3 o'clock kickoffs, no lunchtime kickoff this weekend. So we have Brighton versus Wolves. I think this could be quite a good game, for both sides. We know Brighton, on the day they can be quite a fairly decent side. We spoke about Wolves. They've done excellently since they've come back into the Premier League. It is at Brighton, but I think that Wolves are the better side out of these two. So I'm going to give Wolves the win. I'm going to go Brighton 1, Wolves 2. We then have Southampton versus Newcastle. Again, two teams that have struggled this season. I think both are in maybe 18th, 19th in the table. Haven't really got their season going and struggling for goals. So I'm going to go Southampton 1, Newcastle 1. We then have Liverpool versus Cardiff. Obviously, we know that Liverpool are the closest to contenders for Manchester City to winning the league this year, or being in the title challenge, if you like. Cardiff haven't really impressed me as much, as the likes of Wolves have from coming up into the Premier League. And obviously, it's at Anfield. We know that Liverpool will be a completely different animal at Anfield. So I'm going to go Liverpool 2, Cardiff 0. We have Fulham versus Bournemouth. I thought Fulham started the Premier League quite well, but they seem to have dipped in form a little bit. Bournemouth, again, they're having an excellent season at the moment. I think they're about maybe 8th, 7th in the table. So they're doing really, really well. And again, I'm going to give the advantage to Bournemouth, even though it is at Fulham. I'm going to go Fulham 1, Bournemouth 2. We then have Watford versus Huddersfield. Again, Watford have started the Premier League really strongly this season. Again, I think they should be about. I think they're about 6th, 7th in the table, something like that. They might have dipped a little bit. They might be like 9th or 10th. I'm not can't quite remember. I know they're in the top half of the table though, and they've done really, really well to the start of this Premier League. Huddersfield, a complete shadow of themselves from last season, if you think about it. Last season, I think they're about 13th, 14th in the table. This year, they're about maybe 17th, 16th, and they're really, really struggling for points at the moment. So I'm going to go for an easy win for Watford. I'm going to go Watford 2, Huddersfield 0. We then have Leicester versus West Ham. I thought, if you like, Leicester were a little bit unlucky against Arsenal on Monday night. Obviously they took the lead. They could have had a penalty. They smacked the crossbar in the second half. So that could have been a completely different story on the weekend. For Monday for Leicester. I thought Arsenal were a completely different animal in the second half, but I think if Leicester had took their chances in the first half, I think Arsenal probably would have lost that game. But we didn't. We won, and Leicester lost. It'd be a completely different game on Saturday. I think West Ham will be a tough opposition, but again, I think if Leicester play anything like they did in the first half against Arsenal, I think they could beat West Ham quite easily. So I'm going to go Leicester 2, West Ham 1. We then have Sunday kickoffs now. We've got 2 1:30 games. The first one is Burnley versus Chelsea. I thought Chelsea were very lucky to get the equaliser last week against Manchester United. Some people will say I don't consider that as luck. I consider it as keep going and keep going and keep going. Until you get your equaliser. Until you get your result. I just think it was very, very poor defending from Manchester United. Yes, Chelsea can only play what's put in front of them. They did do their own job. But I thought Manchester United were a completely different team in the second half, and they probably should have won that. But again, they didn't. Chelsea did well to get back, 2-2. Again, completely different animal on the weekend. Burnley. I don't want to disrespect Burnley. I know it is at home, but I can't see much problems for Chelsea. So I'm going to go Burnley 1, Chelsea 3. The next 1:30 game is Crystal Palace versus Arsenal, and I don't want to sound again disrespectful to Crystal Palace. And I know Arsenal seem to be a tale of two halves at the moment. They seem to be very poor in the first half, and then the second half they seem to be like Barcelona, Real Madrid. So you look at Crystal Palace, and again they're kind of like a little bit of a shadow of themselves from last season. They're not doing really well. I can't remember the last time they won a game actually. I think they've won 2 or something, maybe 1 all season. So again, I think they're about 17th, 18th in the table. Again, Arsenal, these are the kind of games where Arsenal should be sending out a message. I know the likes of Paul Merson, who wants to run his mouth and say that, Arsenal haven't faced anybody. I just want to remind someone like Paul Merson, remember, these are the teams like Leicester, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, Watford as well, if you like. The teams that Arsenal are beating this year, these are the teams the last 2 or 3 seasons that we've been getting mugged off. So Paul Merson can sit there and run his mouth as much as he likes about how Arsenal haven't played anybody and he thinks that Liverpool are going to smack us and this, that, the other. I personally think it'll be a good game against Liverpool Arsenal next week, and I'll get into that obviously in next week's predictions. But it does really, really piss me off, when you hear these pundits saying, Arsenal haven't really faced anybody, what have they done, this, that, the other. Just remember, for the last 3 seasons, these are the teams that we're beating at the moment are the teams that have been mugging us off, and we failed to get a result there for the last 3 seasons. So the fact that Emery's come in here and we're beating the sides that we should be beating with the team that we've got, I think that pretty much deserves respect, and it shows that Emery has turned us around. So I found that comment very, very disrespectful from Paul Merson in the week, but he's entitled to his opinion. I just think he's an idiot. In terms of the game, again, I think Crystal Palace are poor. I think if Arsenal can get into the second and third gear like they usually do in the second half, I can't see Arsenal being a problem, and I do think that we can give them a masterclass here. I look at Crystal Palace's defending. I don't see them much as a threat going forward for us. I know some eyebrows are going to be raised, but as I said, these are the kind of messages that we want to send out a statement, and maybe give a message to Liverpool for next week. We're no easy mugs. So for this result, I know some people are going to laugh at me and call me disrespectful, but for this result, I'm going to go Crystal Palace 0, Arsenal 5. Again, I know people are going to sit there and go deluded twat, this, that, the other, but if Arsenal want to send out a message, and I think that you look at Crystal Palace's defence, you look at Arsenal's team. I know games aren't played on paper, but you look at Arsenal's team and the way that we've been playing, in the second halves this season. I can't see that being much of a laughable result. Remember, we went to Fulham, and they're not as bad as Crystal Palace. We went to Fulham and beat them 5-1. So just think about that before you want to call me deluded and disrespectful. We go to 4 o'clock kickoff. Manchester United versus Everton. What can I say about Manchester United that I haven't said for the last couple of weeks? I'm not going to read into the game on Tuesday night. Juventus is in a completely different league to Manchester United. They're a completely different league to most teams, apart from your likes of Barcelona. There's a reason why they've been in the Champions League finals for the past 3 or 4 seasons. They're no laughing matter. They're in a completely different league. So I'm not going to discuss that. But it's the things off the field at Manchester United where I feel is the problem. Yes, they're not playing great football, but I feel they're not playing great football is because they're not being set up right, and they're not playing as a team. No one's playing for the manager because they all think he's a tosser. It's as simple as that. Paul Pogba doesn't like him. Luke Shaw doesn't like him, and to be fair, Luke Shaw's actually been one of their best players this season. So I just feel that if someone came in now to the Manchester United job, that they'd be a completely different animal. They're not playing for Jose Mourinho. We saw it happening at Chelsea a couple of years ago when he pissed the likes of Eden Hazard off and this, that, the other. And yeah, Eden Hazard can sit there as much as he likes, and say that I'd play for Jose Mourinho. Again in my career. Just remember, mate, you're one of the reasons why Jose Mourinho got sacked in the first place at Chelsea, because you refused to play under him because he pissed you off about the doctor incident. So let me just remind you about that. Everton, I don't think they've got enough quality to beat Manchester United, but I do think it's a great place to go at the moment because their confidence is low, and I do think Everton can get a result. So I'm going to go Manchester United 1, Everton 1. I don't know how much longer Manchester United will keep Jose Mourinho in charge, but that's down to them at the end of the day. How much longer, they can afford to be a banter club, if you like. I've been through it myself, with Arsene Wenger, and we kept with him for 14 years. Can't see Manchester United doing that, but there does come a time when you think, how many times can Jose Mourinho, slag off the board, and they have to tell him to shut up, and he slags off Pogba, he slags off his players, he slags off Martial, and this, that, the other. How many times does that happen before you start to think, I don't actually want this guy in charge of my football club? So that's over to Manchester United. Nothing to do with me. And on 8 o'clock on Monday we have Tottenham versus Manchester City. Again, I think this will be a really, really good game, but I think that Manchester City have got the better quality. I'm going to go Tottenham 1, Manchester City 2. So that has been my predictions for this weekend, guys, and I will see you next week for next week's predictions. Thank you for watching, guys.